as you know, the FA have released their report on what they have felt has been lacking in English football, of course, especially talking about players coming through and being world-class at international level. So we decided we'd speak to a coach about this, somebody who, of course, has experience coaching. And the man I'm going to be speaking to is a West Bromwich Albion and Bolton legend, Richard Sneekes, and he's actually a coach at the moment. He's just been appointed as coach, of course, at Rushall Olympic, and he has also got experience coaching at Hereford and at Tamworth. First of all, I want to congratulate you on getting your job. Richard, are you looking forward to the season?
Yeah, it's been it's really come on really quickly, and met the players last night and set out what I was looking for, and all of a sudden you realise what a manager's job is. The phone hasn't stopped ringing today. Whether or not it was the press wanting to have a word, people wanted to congratulate you, or the hundreds of emails of players that want to come on trial or think they're good enough to come and play for us. So it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be challenging at times, and I can only imagine what managers at an even higher level must go through. But no, it's exciting times. The club is well grounded. It's well established. It's got great links. It's right in the middle of in the heart of where we've got the 4 or 5 big teams around us, and hopefully if they don't play at home on a weekend, we'll be able to attract some of their supporters to come and watch us, and hopefully watch entertaining football, which is what I've preached, and which is in my DNA. So hopefully we will be able to attract the players to play the style of football that I want to play, which I think we will do, and hopefully we'll be successful.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll hear about big derby days with Warsaw sometime, and I know there's a couple of big players up there as well, isn't there? There's Dilly Adebola I've seen in the squad, and Josh Craddock.
Dilly. Yeah, they're both there, and there's a few really exciting young players there as well. So, yeah, in the next couple of weeks I'll be speaking. I've met them all last night. As I said, I set out my plans. I said I would contact them all within the next 2 weeks to sit down and see what my plans are, see what their plans are, and go from there. So it's exciting. I can't wait to get started. Steve Inks, my assistant, can't wait to get started, and John Allen and his son Nick and the committee and everybody else wished that pre-season started yesterday, I think. So. No, it's very exciting times, and it's up to me to accumulate and to gather a squad that can do what I set out to do.
Yeah, and of course non-league football is very important. I would urge anyone listening, of course, if they want to go and watch an alternative local team, go ahead and watch Rushall Olympic.
Exactly.
On a day
Don't go anywhere else. Don't go anywhere else. Just come to Rushall.
Well, yeah, let's grow the fan base. And
exactly.
Richard, I want to start off by talking a little bit about how you came through. I know you came through the youth academy at Ajax, which is very well known for its coaching. We know people like Johan Cruyff have been there. Louis van Gaal, ETC, and you then came through. I know a big transfer over to England. You played for Bolton, and then of course you signed for West Bromwich Albion.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your time there, and perhaps how you actually got into coaching after that.
Well, I got signed by Alan Buckley, I think it's 1996, and I had 6, very enjoyable seasons with the club. Towards the end, a lot of people know what the situation was when I came towards the end. I didn't really enjoy my football. I was only 32. I then went to Stockport. I went to Hull, and I played in Denmark for a couple of months, and stopped playing at which was still quite young, 34. So I'd had enough of football by then. So coaching was definitely something that I hadn't thought about. I did I didn't do anything for about a year. Then had the opportunity to buy a restaurant, which I did. I had that for 5 years. And after a while, I started realizing that, I I was doing all these things, but the one thing that I thought, I know most about is football, and that's when I started a soccer school, a coaching company with Darryl Burgess and then Chris Marsh, and that's still running. So that's how I really got back into it. Started doing my badges, got involved at Tanveer with the youth academy, and then the year after I got interviewed to become first team coach at Hereford, and got that. Unfortunately at the end of that year we got relegated, and that all came to an end, and then you realise that it's very difficult to get back into it, and sometimes it's who you know instead of what you know. So I've taken my time. I was at Romulus last year, which I as an assistant manager, and I truly enjoyed my time there. The players that we had really bought into what we wanted to do, and they really enjoyed the training and having me around. And luckily I've been given a chance to show what I can do as a manager at Rushall now. So from where I started out at Ajax, where Johan Cruyff was my manager when I made my debut as a 16-year-old.
Quite a good first manager to have.
Well, it was, but nothing was ever good enough.
Yeah.
He demanded the highest standards, and it was at that stage. You had to keep up, and you had to be able to handle the pressure, of being the best every game, and it's
tough, yeah.
it makes you the player that you are then. And nowadays with grassroots, we've got to be a bit more careful with how we structure things and how we talk to kids and our parents, are on the sideline. So everything has really changed from when I grew up. Nothing but first place was good enough, and whereas now people are really looking into developing players through the environment and the coaching, rather than saying you got to win at all costs. It doesn't work. But when I first started at Ajax, that was what they were looking for. They were looking for flair players who were willing to take risk and who were willing to entertain, but you had to win. So there was elements there that have stuck with me, and that's what I'll be asking my players for. I want my players to express themselves, to go out there and to entertain while still maintaining an organisation and a shape, so that we don't concede, and lose games. But looking forward to winning games and being on the front foot all the time.
And this is one of the issues that I really wanted to talk to you about, grassroots football, and this is why a lot of people have come out. They've heard the new FA Commission, the FA report about the new B League that would be formed, of course, with B teams from Premier League and Championship teams that would be playing under League 2 and above the Conference Premier League. As a manager now in a non-league side, where does that leave you? Does it affect you a lot, or do you believe that it's a decision that the FA should not have made?
Well, I believe, personally, that it would be a good thing. You look in Spain. They've recently started it in Holland. In Germany, the B teams have played in the lower leagues for years and years. And I think personally that maybe in League 2 they could do with dividing the leagues up in a northern and a southern section, because lots of these teams travel long times. And it costs the club a lot of money, where they've got relatively small budgets compared to the Premier League.
Of course.
So if you can divide it up in the northern and a southern section, get the B teams to integrate, into League 2, northern, a southern section, maybe in the conference, do the same, a northern and a southern section, and actually integrate these teams, these B teams, in these two leagues, and I think that would help the attendances, because then what you can do as well is, if a B team plays there, then if somebody in the first team gets injured and needs to come back to full fitness, he might play in a B team. Say next year, Frank Lampard might play in Chelsea's B team. They play Accrington Stanley away.
That's great, isn't it?
They all of a sudden get 5,000 people there, whereas normally they only get 700. So it will generate extra revenue, for these sort of clubs. So I personally think it's a good thing. On the flip side, the teams that borrow young players from these clubs, that wouldn't happen so much. But I've watched a lot of DS, development teams like the under-21s league last year, And I have to say, it's very sterile. It's you attack, I attack. Tippy-tappy from side to side. Whereas I think if they go into League Two and into the conference, it's proper men's football, isn't it? So it would put them into good stead of what to expect when they have to step up to the mark and play for the first team. So I'm personally I'm for it. As I say, in Holland they've started last year. There's 3 teams: young PSV, young Ajax, and young Twente, who have moved into the championship. And they've done really well.
Well, you know what? I've heard, and I know you know as well as I do, being a media pundit, that there's been a lot of bad stick given to this B League. And I think it's very good that you're coming out there and actually offering a flip side. I think, you've got a lot of good points there. In fact, we should develop our youngsters like they do in Spain or like they do in Italy, because at the end of the day, that's where they're coming from. I heard another statistic as well. I want to hear what you believe about this. There's not actually enough coaches in England. Would you agree with that?
Not enough capable coaches.
Yeah, not enough capable coaches. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. And that's another thing. I work for the FA. I'm an FA mentor. I go into grassroots clubs and I help young coaches or parents that have become coaches that take their own teams to develop their not just their coaching skills but their life skills. The skills to handle parents, to handle how to deal with kids. And I think that's a very good initiative from the FA, and it's also good for me to be able to put my knowledge and my experience into people that sometimes have never had to do anything with football before, because they're a parent who becoming coaches. And the FA put a lot of coaching courses on, and they pass a lot of people because they want to get on a par with Germany, Spain, with the amount of coaches that they've got in these countries. But I think the quality that we have got to put through is sometimes got maybe got to be a little bit better, and we can still work on that. I think the mentality of the English coach, of the way we coach kids, it will change, and the FA are trying to change it, but you can't change it overnight. England is another example would be that, I've played futsal since I was at the age of 12. Here, it's only come in the last 7 years. In essence, it's a non-contact sport, but it's brilliant to work on your technique for. And it's not really popular in England, whereas it's very popular in Spain, Brazil, Portugal, Italy, in countries like that. And, I don't know whether or not that is because of the mindset of how the English perceive football has to be played, from when they were young and they were watched it. And that's where probably we've got really a lot of work to break down and work on, developing to see, where we want England to be. And that's, to compete with your Brazils and Spains, which at the moment, with the players that they've got at their disposal, they probably can't do at the moment.
Well, you can't play long ball in a small indoor arena, can you? I suppose that's the English way.
No, and the ball is really heavy. It doesn't bounce, so you've got to keep it on the floor. It's all about passing, and I love playing futsal, and it's a great sport, and it's I think as part of a player's development, it would be good to maybe do that, an hour a week as part of somebody's overall development.
And, talking about coaching as well, I just want to move on to West Bromwich Albion. I know you don't have that much time, but West Bromwich Albion, you being a coach once again, what do you think about their setup? The fact that they have a head coach and that they have a technical director, because I'm sure Albion fans would like to hear your views on that.
Well, as a pundit on BBC WM, I've been talking about this all year round, and it seems like it's been one mistake after another, one bit of shambles after the next, and it's been a season where we've had to get over the line, and luckily we have done, and hopefully they'll have learned their lessons from the last season. The manager came in and didn't really fit in with his philosophy with the players that he had at his disposal. Richard Garlick, who's there as a technical sporting and legal secretary, who hasn't really got a footballing background, and I think it has showed. It has showed, and it's really a pity that Pepe Mel had to go, but I couldn't see any other option. And I think the club have already started rectifying things by appointing a proper, a director of football or, a sporting director, so to speak, and as in Terry Burton. So, I think behind the scenes, they've realised that they've got away with it this year, and then they've got to really work hard this summer to bring new players in, overhaul the squad, put people in the right positions so that this doesn't happen next year, because you only need, one season of bad luck and you might end up in the Championship, and it's very hard to get out of. And some teams, like Wolves did, although they've come back up, have gone straight into League One, and those are the sort of things with the money that's at stake nowadays, and the money that the players taking, the budgets that they've got. It only has to go wrong once. You only have to take Birmingham City as well as an example. Their parachute money will run out next year, I think, and they will struggle. And it just shows that from being an established Premiership club, you can be in the Championship and being quite anonymous.
Where do you think they'll go next season? I know they've let go of a lot of players. 5 loanees, of course, have gone back. Some key players have been released. Liam Ridgewell. Billy Jones looks like he's going to be on his way. Where do you think they'll be next season?
Well, Billy has got a lot of potential. I didn't realise he was 27. I thought he was still a lot younger than that.
Same actually.
But he's a good player who he will definitely find another Premier League club. So, with Reedy, on his last legs as well. I hope he doesn't mind me saying that, but we need to look at on the right hand side. You need to look on the left hand side. I think they'll need somebody. Not in every position, but, they need someone on the left, somebody on the right-hand side. They need a centre-half, another central midfielder, and they definitely need to spend some money on an out-and-out proven goal scorer, because, like I said, last year, we sold Shane Long, who was not an out-and-out, goal scorer, but, would get some really vital goals and brought in players that, hadn't scored for their teams, on a regular basis. So, there's a lot of rebuilding, and I'm sure that they'll appoint a new manager pretty quick, because they'll want to do some business. They want to do their business done before the World Cup, because that's the last thing you want. Having players who are playing in the World Cup and you can't tie them up. They might have a good World Cup, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So and it's important to have your targets and get them done and dusted as early as possible.
And final question. I've got to ask you about this. The World Cup. Holland, do you think they're going to win it?
I thought they were going to win it last time, and then, they had a great World Cup, and then me and my family all in my old Holland tops when I played it under 15s and under 21s and stuff. Went to the pub and it was just an anticlimax. So hopefully they can go one better, 4 times surely, they can win a final, but being where it is and with the humidity and the heat, you've got to look at probably Spain, somebody like Spain, Brazil, Argentina to be one of the real favourites.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people will be disagreeing with you there. It has been fantastic having you on the Sports Lounge. Really appreciate it. You are, of course, a true Midlands legend, Richard.
No worries. I really enjoyed talking to you, and all the best with the radio station and with your programme.
Cheers, Richard.
Thank you.